Hello everyone, this is Fred Foy Strang. I'm glad you're joining me today for this episode of Moment for Mission. As I've been affirming in these Moment for Mission podcasts, having a life purpose is an important part of your overall health and well-being. And I'm not the only one saying so. So today we're having our very first Moment for Mission book review. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a snapshot of an interesting foray on the subject. The book is Life on Purpose by Victor Strecher. You can find a link to it along with quotations I will cite in the show notes of this episode. But first it's time for a Fred Foy fact. I enjoy working on our log cabin and fixing up old stuff, cars, houses, furniture. We have completely renovated all the houses we've lived in and doing lots of the work ourselves. And I'm pretty handy with tools, but sometimes I overestimate my abilities, like installing crown molding. You have to make your cuts upside down and backwards. It sounds simple, but it's pretty hard. I was on the phone with my middle brother, a master carpenter, many times during a project. There were a number of trips to the building supply for more material, and a good bit of caulk was used. You bet the next time we wanted crown molding, I called an expert. Victor Strecher works in public health at the University of Michigan. In 2010, after living with a rare cardiac illness for years, his 19-year-old daughter succumbed to a sudden heart attack. In his book, Life on Purpose, Strecher recounts how dealing with a chronically ill child and her eventual death changed his perspective on life and how he was to engage it. Reading this book, you'll find a mashup of personal reflection, uplifting stories, and reports of recent science on the topic of purpose. Life on Purpose explores the connection between living with purpose and scientific evidence on quality of life. In this book, you'll find forays into philosophy, literature, psychology, biology, genetics, and neuroscience. According to Strecher, there is a definite connection between the pursuit of a meaningful mission and our overall well-being. When we live life according to our values and goals, and we look beyond ourselves to the greater good, striving to make a difference in this world, then we will likely experience a higher degree of psychological wellness, and even areas of our physical health and our longevity will augment. Strecher points to studies showing the positive impacts of living life on purpose. He also suggests that the evidence is compelling enough to promote such a practice in a communal environment, such as our schools or work environments. In one study, students who were encouraged to consider education as connected to their purpose in life were more likely to put forth greater effort in classes they found boring or difficult. And in another study, workplaces that emphasized the corporate mission and purpose tended to be more enjoyable places to work and even more financially successful when compared to those driven solely by profit. I found one study he cites particularly fascinating. As you've heard in past episodes, my wife Cecily is a PhD nurse educator. One of the areas she has deeply involved herself in here in our mission work in East Africa is public health. The basics are really, really important. In the show notes section for this episode, you can take a look at a couple of photos of some hand washing stations Cecily has helped to integrate into rural Maasai schools. In one study cited in Life on Purpose, researchers discovered that hospital workers were 45% more likely to use good hand-washing practices when they were told it helped prevent patients from catching diseases than if they were told it helped them personally. When healthcare workers were able to connect habit to a greater good purpose, it inspired better practices. Strecher writes, pointing out to employees that their actions affect others can result in transcending behaviors, even saving lives. Of course, after reading all of Strecher's words of inspiration and citations to science, we want to know how. That's always the rub, isn't it? Moving from thinking about our mission to really engaging it and beginning to fulfill it. In so much of living a life on purpose, we must constantly be about the business of translating the knowing what to do into the doing what we know. Thankfully, much of the book points to suggestions and ideas to help us think this through and try out some actions in certain areas. Strecher addresses our query and writes that both energy and willpower are needed from us. He goes on to say that these can be assisted by making healthy lifestyle choices, such as consistently getting the right amount of sleep, committing to eating a nutritious diet, getting in adequate physical exercise, and also practicing what he calls being more present in our regular old everyday lives. He writes that the connection of lifestyle choices, energy, willpower, and purpose are all bi-directional. I think what he's getting at here is simply that they influence each other. He writes, quote, the dynamic process of aligning yourself with your life purpose requires energy and willpower, wind in your sails to move you forward, and a strong rudder to prevent being blown off course, end quote. So this whole idea of having a meaningful mission and making meaningful connections for good beyond myself is pretty important. I was glad someone else thought so too. Don't you think it makes sense to try to figure out our purposes? And doesn't it also make sense to try our best to engage that mission? When we do these things, I sincerely think we will begin to live a more abundant and meaningful life. Strecher concludes, if I were you, I wouldn't wait around for more research. I'd just get a purpose. The scientific evidence supporting the benefits of one is extremely promising. And, at the risk of sounding a bit alarmist, we need it. The subtitle of this book hits home for me. How living for what matters most changes everything. This Moment for Mission podcast is a reminder and an encouragement for me, and I hope for you, to look beyond myself and seek those things that are truly valuable and enduring, the things that can make a difference in my life, the lives of those immediately around me, and hopefully make an impact for good on this beleaguered world that we share. Victor Strecher's Life on Purpose, a good read, and an important word for those who are on or who are hoping to be on a mission. Are you living your life on purpose? Are you crafting and pursuing your mission? What's keeping you from taking a moment for mission today? This is Dr. Fred Foy-Strang, reminding you that you can do this. You can make a difference. You can be a person of mission, vision, hope, and help. And while you're at it, have a great day.